It's 20 Macs for 2020. We've reached it. We've reached number one. I'm Jason Snell here with Stephen Hackett. Our
Number
series
one.
comes to an end with a Mac that is near and dear to your heart. It's the G3 iMac.
That's right. When I saw this list almost a year ago, I was super excited that this was number one. Viewers of 512 will know that I collected all of them several years ago. I recollected a Tangerine. My 13 that I collected are now in a museum, the Henry Ford Museum, which is cool. But this machine, I think, really encapsulates a lot of what we've talked about over this series. Macs that were forward-facing, brought interesting design, and changed the way people thought about the Mac. And I feel like the iMac G3 sums all that up in one sort of heavy package.
It really does. This is, I think, the computer that saved Apple and saved the Mac.
Yeah.
Apple, when Steve Jobs returned, was in disarray. And although Steve Jobs brought back with him the software and a bunch of the engineers who would end up creating Mac OS X, which was a super important part of getting the Mac back on track, they needed money and they needed a hit. And the chances of Apple doing a hit product in that period seemed almost to be zero.
Very small.
It was circling the drain. And Steve Jobs took a page from the original Mac playbook and said, let's do a consumer all-in-one that's fun, and let's throw out a bunch of our assumptions about what a Mac is going to be. So USB for the first time, no Mac serial, and all that stuff gone, no ADB, and an optical drive, but no floppy drive, which was a huge thing. And it's translucent plastic, and it's adorable.
That's right.
And it was a hit. He was right. It was a huge hit, and all the longtime Mac people are like, "Oh, I don't know about this thing," but everybody else in the world, that great ad with the "There's no step 3," right? The idea that you just plug this thing in and plug in your phone line, and you're on the internet.
Presenting 3 easy steps to the internet. Step 1, plug in. Step 2, get connected. Step 3. There's no step 3. There's no step 3.
And it was the perfect moment for an internet appliance, essentially. And that was what the iMac was.
Yeah, it sort of harkened back to the original Macintosh. Not only is it an all-in-one and have a handle, but that idea that it was an appliance. There's no expansion in these. You can add RAM, that's about it. But it was an appliance for the internet age. And Apple did some deals with some internet providers over the years where you could get your iMac online. And we're talking about the very late 90s, 2000, 2001. It's not like it is today where everyone has internet in their homes. It was a bigger deal to get a computer on the internet. But what's fascinating about this is that they did it with their old system software. You said that this is the Mac that saved Apple. I totally agree. It's also the Mac that funded OS X development. And they shipped this originally with a version of Mac OS 8. Most people, including myself, remember running Mac OS 9 on them. But they were able to bring just enough of the internet into the classic Mac OS to make it all work. But people were so excited about the hardware, I think they were willing to forgive the fact that they were running, at that point, an OS that really was on its last legs, because the hardware was so exciting. And, you and I both love color in Apple products. This is a Tangerine iMac that I have, but they had 13 different finishes, and they would rev them about every 9 months. So not only got a faster iMac every 9 months on the market, but eventually added FireWire, and iMovie was a big deal on these. And of course, the finishes would change each time as well.
Yeah, it was an era where if you didn't live through it, all of a sudden all products had translucent plastic bits, just because of the iMac, because there was this cool computer, and so everyone else wanted their consumer product that had a plastic panel to be cool. So they said, or the plastic salesman must have had a field day, right? They're like, oh, we could do a translucent plastic thing like an iMac, and then everything had it for a while, and most of them really were ugly and awful. And of course, this computer was the last of its kind in another way, which is this is an iMac that has a CRT. It's built around the CRT. It's huge and bulbous and weird because of the giant tube display inside. And Apple would get away from that with the next iMac, which we already talked about, the G4 iMac, which was a flat panel. But the nice thing about the CRT iMac is it forced them to design this really weird and interesting looking computer.
Yeah, I mean, it is curved, and on the later ones, they're more translucent than the original that you have in this one, where you could see through it and you could see the CRT and the wiring to it and stuff. They sort of embrace that, you know what, there's a CRT in here, we're just going to build around it. And I think it totally worked because it is this friendly shape. A lot of these got put into schools. That's where I first saw my first iMac was in middle school. We had a couple of them in a lab of otherwise beige Macs, and they were sensational. You know, they it's not that they were that much faster than the beige Macs. It's not that they really had much more to offer than the beige Macs in the beginning. In fact, because of USB and no floppy, they were actually kind of harder to work with. But you just wanted to be the kid who got to use it because it looked so cool. And that is something that Steve Jobs brought back with him without a doubt.
Yeah, so it's the fundamentals of the original Mac in terms of building a computer for the rest of us, except it actually was a pretty low price computer compared to computers of the day that Apple was making. It was hitting at the right time for the internet. It was hitting at the moment where Apple desperately needed a hit product, and Apple needed to fund, as you pointed out, that software transition in order to get a modern operating system with OS X. So that's why it's number one in my book. Like, the Mac wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be here without the iMac. It completely changed the trajectory of Apple and the Mac, and there would be no iPhone, there would be no iPad. I don't think there would be anything we've seen from Apple were it not for the success of this funny looking computer. And that's why it's number one in my book.
I agree. You know, I haven't agreed with all of your picks over this. This is your list, but I totally agree with this being number one in terms of notable Macs because it is so important no matter which way you look at it. It stands alone.
See, I knew you wouldn't like all my picks, but I also knew that you'd come around because I knew what number one was going to be. And
Yep.
here we are.
You won me over.
So here we are with this. And thank you to everybody who has watched this series. It's been a lot of fun to count down what I think, not Stephen, he is doing this under protest, are the 20 most notable Macs of all time. Thanks for watching. And Stephen, thank you so much for being a part of it.
Thanks for letting me. This has been so much fun.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.